Okay, so how do you manage your energy in labour? One of the things that is such a focus is contractions and therefore pain or discomfort. And there's less focus put on managing your energy in labour. And when I speak to women who've had babies, one of the things that comes up is just how knackering it is. And that always kind of takes them by surprise. You know, it's such a physical as well as an emotional thing that it makes sense that managing your energy is something that you need to consider, that's helpful to consider. So let's just talk through some of these points just to kind of give you something to consider. So slowing your breathing can be a great place to start because it means that you are giving your body a bit of balance. If your breathing's quite rapid, quite shallow, you're creating more adrenaline. And if you're kind of fueled by adrenaline for too long, it's exhausting. You know, we're only meant to experience kind of that spike of stress and adrenaline in response to something, to get us away from something. If it's there a lot, we are knackered. And that can happen in hospitals. So where we haven't quite settled into the environment, don't feel quite as safe as we could. And I don't mean that you feel that your labour's unsafe, it's just that the environment's unfamiliar. So all of that makes a difference. Eating, obviously, and that seems quite obvious, and drinking plenty of water, but it's something that we can forget to do or feel that we shouldn't do in labour. So from early labour right through, if you're hungry, be led by that need. The only time really that you won't be encouraged to eat is if your labour's becoming more medical. And if it looks like maybe more interventions, possibly a cesarean could be needed, then you won't be encouraged to eat. But apart from that, you need fuel. So do that eating. Linked in with your breathing, relax those muscles. If you're really tense, that takes up energy. So you need to let all of that go as well. And what we were linked in with, what we've just spoken about, is that need to feel safe. And that can be about being in the right environment, so no longer at home if you want to be in hospital, having a midwife with you, is your doula there if you've booked one? Do you understand what's happening? Do you understand what's going on? You know, all of those things. So the information needs to be right. You need to be reassured to understand what's happening. As I've talked about in previous videos, going to the loo is really important as well because your bladder takes up space. And if it's full, that's space that your baby needs. And that can mean that labour's longer and less efficient. Therefore, that has a knock-on effect on just how tired you are. Plus, it's just uncomfortable having a full bladder. Slowing down your heart rate, reducing the tension, just a follow on from everything else we've talked about. Resting in between contractions. So it might be that with contractions, you naturally want to be more upright, mobile, you know, kind of swaying, moving. In between those contractions, it can become important to rest. So being in a position where, excuse me, your head can rest, your arms can rest, so that you're leaning. And then with a contraction, you can push yourself up, work through that contraction, and then rest again. Being supported in those positions. So that's with a birth partner, that's by using pillows. You can use a birth ball. You can sit on a ball or a chair and lean against the bed, against a table, just lean against your partner or the back of another chair, anything that is going to allow you to be in an upright, rested position. If you're leaning you're conserving energy because you're flopping. And that will most probably be in between contractions. However, with positions, if it's comfortable for you to lie down, if labour's long and you're shattered, get some rest. That becomes the priority. If it's comfortable for you to do so, then that's what happens. But it can also mean that it's about looking at your pain relief as well, because if you are truly shattered because maybe you've missed a night's sleep and it's lots of hours since you've had some proper rest, then that's when something like an epidural can become more of an option if it's something that you had wanted to avoid, because rest becomes a priority. So it's thinking these things through, and these are the considerations that you that you can have depending on how labour's unfolding. Dim the lights, the environment, if it allows you to just feel a bit more switched off and less alert in the room, change something. Sometimes something's got to change. Linking back in with your breathing, being as calm as you possibly can, and having really good support and communicating that. So you might need to say to your partner what it is that you need, equally with your midwife. So it could be that you have a midwife who you're working really well with, but she's kind of really chatty and you're just not in that space. You know, it might be that you need to say, can we just have a bit more quiet so that I can switch off and try and focus and just try and rest in between contractions. It comes back to everything I will say throughout all of these videos, which is you were at the center of this. So it's really important that you say what you need, and because that will work better for you. And all of this can change throughout labour and birth as well. So what works for you in earlier labour might not work for you later on. So it's really important that you're able to continue to have a voice and to be able to say kind of what matters as labour progresses, as things start to change in transition, and then during the birth of your baby as well. Remember, you are the star of the show.